From being someone who originally wanted to skip to now actually having her, today I'm here with my first impressions on Lauma. So leading up to her release when, her kit was in beta and we were going through all the stuff, seeing the changes she got, we already had a relative idea since her initial kit was released that she is going to be absolute crack for Dendro. Dendro has kind of had the backseat for a little while. The only latest, instance was released in Kanich back in 5.0. Him plus Emily, so the burning team, that was really good for him, and Kanich being like the best Dendro DPS right there. At least for his role, but like overall as a Dendro DPS. Since then, there really hasn't been any changes to Dendro, and especially stuff like Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and also stuff like Quicken or Spread, and also Aggravate by default. Personally, I was never the biggest fan of Bloom, and even seeing Lauma's kit, we knew that she was mainly going to be the big crack for Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and especially with the Lunar Bloom. But I always, when I did use Dendro, if it wasn't Kanich, I'd always be someone using Aggravate or Spread. I was just the enjoyer of that. It was just great, especially with the characters I used. When I used Genshin, I used Aggravate. When I used Alhaitham, I used Spread. Even with Alhaitham, where teams like Quick Bloom or Hyper Bloom did outperform, I really didn't care. So seeing Lauma was going to be this absolute crack for Dendro, but unfortunately Alhaitham got the less treatment where, he didn't really get the biggest benefits out of her. It was kind of sad. But it was still true that she was going to be insane for all Dendro characters for the most part, besides Kanich on his burning team. But stuff like Bloom was coming back, it was going to be cool. And seeing that she still technically was on Alhaitham's best team, it was going to be really cool. Because if you guys don't know about me, which I never really said this yet, so until Skirk, Alhaitham was my absolute favorite DPS to use. I didn't have his weapon for the longest time just because I was never able to go for it. And I kind of, for a while, gave up using Alhaitham too much because, I didn't really want to use them on Quick Bloom or, Hyper Bloom and stuff and not really had the biggest difference. And I was this is the biggest reason I went for Lauma, actually. I was kind of tired of using Nahida because I kind of got really tired of reapplying the skill every wave. If it was a boss, it didn't matter because you don't really have to reapply too much and rotations were quick, but it got really annoying to just reapply it. No matter what team she was on, I just got really annoyed with it. Thanks to Lauma, I don't actually have to reapply anything. It's not like I had to mark them. I just hold her E, throw out her ult, go out, and I'm good to go. The stuff she brought to the table was great. Lunar Bloom as a brand new reaction, completely just beefing up Bloom by increasing the base damage, and also especially being able to allow Bloom to now crit, which is just insane. So increasing the actual damage already, and now being able to increase it further by allowing it to crit. So the stuff she was doing for that team was just absolutely insane. Now with the Nilo Bloom team, Hyper Bloom teams, all that is so strong now that she has released. Increasing the total DPS the team can do by a lot, and again, making Hyper Bloom probably one of the strongest teams once again, because when 3.x released and Hyper Bloom was becoming a thing, and Bloom in general, especially with Dendro reactions, it was already practically the strongest thing ever. Slowly got pushed out for a while and then didn't really receive any updates, and now it got Lauma, and now it's practically almost at the top again. Especially with the fact that she has a base Dendro Red Shred built into her kit for Hydro and Dendro is insane. Which is also great because even if I'm not using her on full-on Hyper Bloom team so much, because I have Nilo, I've used her with Nilo Bloom. It's really strong, but I don't think I've completely changed my opinion on Bloom for how much I enjoy it. I still find it relatively more on the boring side. If I could use Lauma as a pure spread / quicken character to help with that, I would, but unfortunately she's not built for that, and Nahida's still better in that regard. But I still was able to shift over my Alhaitham team to a Quick Bloom team, and I still can have fun with that because the way I do it, I know you can technically get way more value by running Alhaitham and a Hyper Bloom team with Lauma, so the Blooms do more damage, Alhaitham's personal damage is less focused on. But the thing I really like about team flexibility in this game is I can still make it a Bloom-sided team where Llama's personal damage is helping a bunch and where she's helping a bunch, while Alhaitham is still getting great personal buffs. My favorite Alhaitham team now is running Lauma, Alhaitham, Inefa, and also Farina. Pretty much just increasing lunar damage that it can do. It doesn't let Blooms crit because I'm running 2 of the moon sign levels, so unfortunate for that, but I really don't care. Farina doesn't buff lunar reactions also unfortunately, but she does amplify Alhaitham's personal damage by a lot. Slower Hydra app, so it's not like it's going to be constant blooming much, it's just a quick bloom team with how her Hydra app does work. But with the fact that she's able to also heal the team, and then Inefa has shield as well, so I don't really have to worry about dying unless I play badly, which, I haven't used Alhaitham too much in a while. So I have to ease back into using him again. So I have very sloppy rotations right now, but I do need to work on that. But yeah, even if I don't enjoy full-on Hyper Bloom and Bloom related teams with like Nilou and such, I can still use Lauma on Quick Bloom variants. Like I used her with Quick Bloom Chlorinde as well. Actually really fun as well. And again, I really hate reapplying Nahida's skill. I know Overload Chlorinde is still overall probably better. I haven't looked at the calcs yet, but I'm pretty sure it is better. And it's just a lot more freedom to use. But Quick Bloom Chlorinde with Farina Lauma is also just really fun. Unfortunately, with Chlorinde, you don't get any Red Shred for her own personal damage that's going to matter, because it's not like Lauma is impacting Electro Res at all. But she still applies enough to where it works. The team is really fun, and it definitely does the job. So originally, I was going to skip Lava because 6.0 had Flynn's, and I thought Flynn's was going to be like my new personal favorite character just off design alone, but he ended up being not what I expected. In the story, I mean, gameplay-wise, he's fire, but in the story, he isn't, like, really something I'm crazy over. I still like him. I will get him. But I decided to change my plans just because he wasn't, like, going to be, like, my favorite character that I'm going to slowly just pull dupes every rerun and such and slowly get to C6 and stuff. Originally, I was saving, like, over 40k primos. I was ready. I was going to just go crazy. I was going to get his weapon. I was going to get maybe C2 and C3, maybe even more if I got lucky. But alas, in the story, he didn't end up being like anywhere near my faves, so I'm not going to go too crazy. And I decided to split my plans. I was going to get Lauma, which is going to be great for my account flexibility, so I decided why not, especially because I do use Dendro a decent amount still. And it also opens to more team fun. And I also decided to go ahead and get Alhaitham's weapon finally because I had the currency that allowed for it. Unfortunately, I didn't get... Okay, it's hard to say this. I didn't get lucky, but I got lucky. I went to Pity and I lost to Cyno's weapon, which is probably the best case scenario, to be honest. Just because that weapon is so unbelievably good with the crit rate stick and also any EM DPS, and that's also almost as good as Flynn's Sig, so I no longer have to get Flynn's Sig. So I got a weapon for Flynn's. Now I can just go for C1 Flynn's or even C2 if I'm lucky, and I'll just stop there. And I have a weapon ready for him, so technically he's a blessing in disguise, and then I had to go to Pity again, and I got Alhaitham's weapons, so Lauma making my favorite DPS, or again, second favorite DPS, Alhaitham, actually relatively strong, and being able to clear very well. He was already able to clear really well. He was like an underdog in Stygian Onslaught, and in Abyss and such, and IT, he still very much could clear, especially on his, best teams, if you ran in Bloom or not. But he is definitely a character that is showing his age, and Lauma, unfortunately for him specifically, isn't the biggest upgrade. It's great if you're running him on Bloom teams, but it's also something that just isn't, like, meant for him. Like, every other Dendro character that's, like, related to Quick Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and all that stuff, they got bigger buffs, especially some characters that work great with Dendro, such as Bloom teams with Nilou. They all obviously got the biggest buffs from Lauma because that's how she was designed, but at least Alhaitham still got upgrades to his best team. And I found a way to make her work well on Quick Bloom, where I didn't find a way, it was just kind of like, how the team works. Where I can use him on a team I still do enjoy, and I have more fun with it because I no longer have to apply Nahida's skill that much. There's probably going to be teams where I mess around and use both Lauma and Nahida, but for now, my Nahida seems to be relatively just benched now because I just don't have a reason to use her. Lauma for me will lose value if I ever, or not if I ever, but if the game decides to ever make a support that is centralized for Quicken/Spread. That is probably where Alhaitham will get the biggest buff, just because I feel like he works best on those teams. And so if they ever make a Quicken/Spread/Aggravate buffer, I will 9,000 quadrillion million % pull for them. And Lauma will lose value on my account because, I kind of pulled her for a reason that you really shouldn't. I pulled her for Quick Bloom teams and stuff. As I mentioned, I don't really use Bloom, and that's where she's, like, crazy for. She makes them super broken. I could have very much just not got her and still used Nahida and probably not have, like, the craziest difference, but it's still really fun teams. It's really strong as well. Alhaitham absolutely cooks once again. And so, my first impressions is I'm very satisfied on her performance. She's absolutely broken. She makes these Bloom teams insane. If I did enjoy Bloom as much as some other people do, like, if it was a playstyle I found really fun, then I would be, absolutely fiending over this, like, infinitely better. But even as someone who doesn't enjoy Bloom, that's how much I'm saying. Even as someone who doesn't enjoy Bloom that much and still can, cope with Quick Bloom at most, I still have fun with it, and it is really great. She buffs Alhaitham enough to make it warranted, and I'm also very happy with the performance. A lot of my clears are now going to contain Alhaitham again, and I cannot wait to use them more. All thanks to Lauma and Quick Bloom teams working really well together. If I ever do get bored, and if I ever do need, like, a Hyper Bloom team in Stygian Onslaught, that's also going to be insanely strong together. So again, my first impressions is I'm very satisfied. She has just an insanely strong kit, making Lunar Blooms do a lot of damage, being able to make them crit, and also providing insane amounts of shreds. If you're someone who does main Bloom teams, I 9,000,000% recommend pulling her. If you're someone like me who mainly wants, like, spread, quicken, and stuff, but you can shift to quick bloom and stuff, you can consider it if you have spare pulls, but if you're on, like, the lighter spender side, I wouldn't recommend it. Because, again, these teams, like Alhaitham as a prime example as my case, Quick Bloom Corrin as well, like, they don't really get the craziest buffs, like, you can very much just use the other teams. It's not like an insane jump they get the least out of someone like Lauma. But they still definitely make the team variants a lot stronger. So it is something you can consider. So I would only recommend it if you do main these kind of style teams. If you main like Quick Bloom style teams, then Llama is great. But if you main Hyper Bloom, that's where I mainly recommend it. Not even just Hyper Bloom, Nilu Bloom, Hyper Bloom, so on. Otherwise, I recommend if you are a person that doesn't really use Dender too much, or if you use Quick Bloom occasionally and such, but you're also a light spinner, then I wouldn't recommend it. Don't do what I did. If Quicken and Spread inevitably get another character that buffs it, then I probably will ditch using Llama altogether. But I also like her in stories, so I guess it's kind of just a win-win. But yeah, that does wrap up my first impressions. Again, very satisfied. If you also pulled for Llama, let me know how you guys are enjoying her. I'm sure most people are very satisfied because, again, she brought back Bloom, making it super broken again. A lot of team variants, a lot of team variety with Dendro again. She is just insanely strong. So if you pulled for her, let me know how you're enjoying her. If you guys found this video enjoyable, drop a good like, would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of Genshin Impact content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.